Hi, it's John Murphy here again from the Winning Teams podcast. And our guest today on the podcast is a really interesting guy from living in LA, is Jonathan George, who also goes by the great title of the Human Hitmaker. And the reason that he is called that is because he's been involved in the music business and has been, part of his work has been about developing future hit makers. So that's where it came from. But also Jonathan works in the corporate market. And this podcast is really for anyone who's looking to make that significant shift in terms of their own mindset and their own self-belief and stepping into a role that they really need to step into. So what Jonathan is talking about is the things that hold us back from being what we can be, really understanding, what is the superpower that we all have, and we all have that superpower within it. And then how do you bring that superpower to the fore and make sure that you stay with it. But he also talks about what you do on a daily basis to make sure that you're fulfilling your dream, and also that you're doing all that you can to remove the roadblocks that really kind of get in the way of us achieving what we have the potential to achieve. So Jonathan's a really interesting guy, a very interesting backstory, which he explains in the podcast, and where he really faced significant adversity, and really, really significant adversity at a young age, and how he's been able to pivot that. So for anyone who really is looking to make that step change into believing in themselves and believing that there is a lot more within themselves to achieve, then this is really well worth listening to. You can also go to my website, johnmurphyinternational.com, where you can download there a copy of my book, The 10 Key Traits of Top Business Leaders. Just go in, put your name in there, and we will send that to you immediately. And that really will also help you to kind of step into being the leader that you aspire to be. But in the meantime, sit back and listen to our chat with Jonathan. So, Jonathan, welcome to the Winning Teams podcast, all the way from LA, different time zone to me, but it's great to talk to you.
Great to see you, John. Really nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
This would be fantastic. Your name, or the title that's given to you, is the Human Hitmaker. Now that's quite a title and branding to go with you. You might just explain exactly what's behind that and what the rationale, or how you ended up getting that.
Well, here in the entertainment industry, I've been creating rock stars in the entertainment industry for 20 years. And so really incredible to see everybody's like, how do you make these young superstars, And because you're taking talent that's what most would think mediocre or, ordinary, average, and you're making them be superstars. And it's because of my ability to really see people's full potential, and then how to be able to pull that out of them and then cultivate it into greatness. So, if all my, all the people I work with, friends, whatever, that's Jonathan's the Human Hitmaker, and it's because, and I truly, it's, to me, we were kind of talking before starting all of this, it's just being able to see people for really who they are, what their full potential is, and because we all have it. And if we can shine a spotlight on that greatness rather than all the things that we're not, man, we all have we have these super potentials that are just incredible.
I know that you've worked very extensively in the music industry, but I think your business has kind of pivoted a bit more, that it's kind of moved into the more corporate market and business market and with entrepreneurs. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Yes. The whole movement I've got is Unleash Your Rock Star. And really, corporations now, especially because I love millennials and I get millennials. I understand millennials. I've been working with them for, since 1994. I've been working with that age group, bringing them up, And so the thing is in the corporate world, people want they're people to have an entrepreneurial spirit. They want them to rise up and be really great in their, not, they don't want, who wants to be stifled? You want a team that is a bunch of incredible entrepreneurial mindsets that are stepping up to the plate, that they feel like they're part of a vision, just like what's your background right there. It's vision, it's mission. And, people want to feel like they're part of something. Millennials, everybody gets down on millennials and wants to, stick their finger on their head and say, oh, you're this bad, this, and this. And I just don't see that. I think of them as the most educated. They're more heart-centered. They're purpose-driven, and they want to be a part of something. They want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like they've been seen and they've been heard. And so, if you can build a company, build a team around, making sure that that's what leadership is, right? Who am I to tell you what this is, right? But building a team that really sees its players. It's really interesting. Simon Fuller, who created, Spice Girls, American Idol. I built a group for him for 4.5 years, and I realized at that time that it is your team has to work together as a team, but each player has to stand up and be a rock star in their own light. Because if you're not standing up and being a superstar, then the team is going to suffer. It will never reach its full potential. And the other players have to support that. When that person is shining, you're supporting it, right? And that person can't be a superstar without the team being there. So, my thing is making sure that everybody stands up and reaches their full potential within a group.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you're saying there, because I do a lot of work with teams, and one of the things, and you touched on there with millennials, is that one of the problems, and I think many times why sometimes millennials get criticized, and I agree with you kind of unfairly, is that they are not engaged. They are not being engaged in the organization in terms of the vision. It becomes a very transactional relationship where they turn up and they get paid, and that's kind of it. And I think the problem is they're looking for engagement because they're looking to belong to something that matters, that they can contribute to. But I think many times the problem is they're managed by people who don't understand that. And I think
100%.
that's where the problem arises. But you're talking about the music industry, and and one of the things that in order to be successful is actually dealing with setbacks, because it isn't a kind of a straight arc all the way up to success. There are humps and bumps along the way. And you certainly did kind of, have your own share of suffering of that, because I think in your mid-20s, where you'd won the Ed McMahon show or whatever it was called, which is kind of the equivalent of, so it's the equivalent of America's Got Talent or, X Factor, whatever it might be at that time. But, you came along, you won that, you're waiting for the big deal, and then suddenly the whole thing comes crashing around you because they discovered you were gay. I mean, that must have been so difficult at that age, at that young age, to actually deal with, first of all, the success of and the excitement of getting it, but then seeing it being just taken away from you just for being who you are.
Yeah,
John, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it was a very difficult time. I'm somebody who's a positive person, so I always think of the gratitude. I was thankful for having the opportunity, meeting all the amazing people, all these things. So my brain always thinks on the gratitude side of things. So I'm always on the positive side. So, even through this situation. So what happened was I won, and I had a record deal on the table, and, this was 2000. And so everybody's like, that was a deal? Yeah. Back in 2000, that was a huge deal. And I literally was at a position where, this was like the highlight. This is why I moved to Los Angeles, was to do my music career, but that's when Google came out. They Googled my name. They found out that I was gay. And I literally I can remember, the call, and they retracted that contract. And I just sat there, and I just was so upset. It was because my entire life, my dad's a pastor, so the spiritual abuse that I received growing up and it wasn't intentional spiritual abuse. It was just, I was told that I couldn't go to heaven. That's what all you work your whole life for, is to make sure you get to go to heaven. I could never fulfill my dreams. I could never be blessed. And to carry that kind of weight, for that, it's just, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And I felt like I could never be good enough. And the bullying you receive as a kid, and it all just kind of came surfacing up. And my team, my management tried to get me married to one of my best friends,
Right.
and so it was, and the story is really incredible. The girl that I was supposed to get married to actually, 3.5 years ago helped change my life in other directions. You know what I mean? Like, just changed my whole direction of my path in my life. But she, and I was just like, I'm not going to lie. If I can't be authentically me, then I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to lie to the world, because I will be the most unhappy person. And I thank God to have the sense at that age and to understand. So I just said no. And that's when I became a coach. And that's when I said, I was going to
Right.
help people rock the person that they already were inside, rather than trying to change them and make them something different than what they were. Instead, I was going to pull out, again, become the human hit maker to help people really become hits at who they were. And, rather than trying to change them and make them something different. And that is where my passion has come from. That is where my fire is. And, because it pisses me off, to be quite honest. And
Right, yeah.
the,
But I mean,
the,
I
the,
think it's extraordinary that you had the maturity at that age, because that must have seemed like the end of the world to you. You had the
oh yeah.
maturity at that age to actually turn it around into something positive, and to go from that to do what you are doing in terms of helping people really transform is quite significant. I'm curious when you talk about the process you go through to get somebody who is not believing in themselves, who only sees their flaws, who only sees their weaknesses. How do you transform them to kind of begin to see as you say, kind of the kind of the real hit maker within them? But how do you get them to do that and then sustain it?
Yes. So here's the thing. I think it's really funny, because there's kind of a layering effect that has to happen. Number one, I'm kind of bossy and pushy. I don't let people get by with feeling down on themselves. I just don't allow it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I see this amazing person, I see this amazing thing in you. And I think when you have somebody who says, "Oh my God, John, you are amazing at this," and you sit there and go, "Oh, I am. I really am good at this." You know what I mean? And when you shine that spotlight, it's really incredible how people see that in a very bright way. And so we just turn that dialogue up. We turn it up, and they just really start embracing what they're great at. And we also talk about the weaknesses. Listen, you're weak in these areas, so we're not going to showcase these. We need to work on these. But let's showcase on your strengths. Let's showcase on your superpowers, not just your hard skill sets, but I'm talking about your superpowers. You know what I mean? Whether that's humor, whether that is loyalty or kindness, whatever that is, let's shine a spotlight on your super gifts
Hmm.
as well as your hard skills. And so
Yeah.
these and the other thing is that when you put action to these things, you don't really have time to go backwards and think about things. You push through. You keep showing up, because you've already committed. So it's like, get up there and do it. You don't really have a choice. You can either sink or you can swim. So what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to fly. Perfect. Let's go. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think when people are prepared, it really makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I mean it's because I find very often, not very often, every now and again when coaching somebody, and what actually can come out is that they may well be in a role that they're successful at. They may well be in a role that they're achieving a lot in some interpretations of that word, but they're actually not doing something that they love, and
Right?
and they've found themselves doing a role that is not really kind of fulfilling them or giving them the joy that it should. And so sometimes the coaching kind of goes off and kind of is about, well, how do you find what it is that you really want to do, and how do you find what is your true path? But one of the things that I've come across when working with clients and doing that, and it's great work when you're doing it with somebody to really help them to find it. But very often the challenge is that when you're talking with them, it's fine. But when they go back into their own environment and they talk about taking a career change or, a lifestyle change or whatever it might be, it's their environment. Very often their environment is saying, you're insane. You shouldn't be doing that. And the doubts begin to creep in. And I'm just wondering, how do you prepare somebody to be resilient at that time?
Well, I'll tell you this right now. It is the most important thing in the planet to have a coach. If you want to be exceptional at anything that you in this life, you've got to have a coach. You've got to have accountability. You've got to have someone who's pushing you. I'm somebody who really, I never needed a coach. I mean, I had so much drive. I do have so much drive, but man, did it switch and change. Here I am. I'm like, everybody needs a coach, and I didn't have a coach. You know what I mean? I was like the coach. And 3.5 years ago, that changed for me. And I'm just tell you what, my whole life has changed and shifted because of having a coach and having multiple coaches in different areas and realizing how important it is. I mean, I've invested over 100,000 in the past 3 years in having teams and coaches to work with. And it's been an astronomical, amazing thing, breakthroughs,
What would you say that were the significant shifts that coaching enabled you to take? Because at the end of the day, it's not the coach who does it to you. You actually, you've got to actually make the change yourself. But if you think about those pivot points, what do you think those pivot points were that really kind of made the difference to you?
Well, it's crazy because, even like for me to talk about my story freely and to be able to make it make sense to me and to the world and, whatever. I mean, here I create people's stories every day, these kids that you see, these people that you see on film and TV. But what happens is that we're all so close to our own stuff. We're too emotionally attached to it. We see it in a very different lens than what somebody else sees it through. And we concentrate on our, the things that created fears in us or, hurt or whatever. And it's just amazing when you have somebody else that's a coach that is like, Jonathan, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Or they see potential in you that you don't even see in yourself. And it's just amazing. The smallest of shifts that have come from being coached that were like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? This is what was holding me back this whole time, and here I was a very successful entrepreneur in the music business, but yet I was hitting glass ceilings and had no idea that it was fear that was holding me back. And I kept, my team, I was like, man, we just keep hitting these ceilings. I feel like I see the other side, but I'm hitting the ceiling. What's going on? And I realized it was fear. It was fear of judgment. Because I was so judged my entire life. I was so fearful of the judgment of being successful. And I was my biggest judge. I was judging myself because I'm a perfectionist. I got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. And I was holding my clients back because I never thought they were perfect enough. And when I realized this was like, we're talking about, the sun just hit me, just boom. It was like, ta-da,
And do you think, was there an element in there as well? Was there a fear of success?
Oh, 100%, because that fear of success to me was meant that I was going to be scrutinized.
Yeah.
Like if I was working with, the top people or whatever, even knowing that I am the best at what I don't know anybody out here who does what I do, and in LA, and and I just was like so worried about what they would, Jonathan, you're this or that, and rather than me just like standing up and, hey, I'm great at this, you know what I mean? I was just so scared to be judged because I've been judged my whole life.
Yeah, because I think so often we sabotage our own success. We see that finishing line and we actually can see it, but there's something that actually stops us, and I think it's unblocking that. And I would imagine with your background, but growing up in that the kind of a Pentecostal environment, and being gay and everything that goes with that if you're always told you're not good enough, you're not talented enough, you're never going to fit in. That's gotta, kind of sabotage when you get close to success, because, it becomes repeating itself. And one of the things that you talk about is, unshakable confidence. And
Yes, sir.
and you said that there are 3 steps to unshakable confidence, and I just want you to explain that.
With unshakable confidence, first you've got to know who you are. You know what I mean? It's like it's understanding what your true talents are. And it's not about whether it's a hard skill set. It's, most people think, oh, he's an amazing basketball player, or wow, he's an incredible, computer programmer. Those are hard skill sets that you've studied, you've learned, you've worked on. I'm talking about your true talents and your gifts, your superpowers. And those are the things that make your other talents shine. So, for me, I came out here to LA. I didn't really know the music business. And was I a good singer? Yeah, I was a good singer, but I wasn't like Mariah Carey or Brian McKnight or, somebody who that we all think is like super gifted or super talented. But it was my ability to, well, number one, my tenacity. I didn't stop. I mean, I had, I kept going. My perseverance was so strong. My creativity, man, I could work around any problem or issue, right? And so I used my superpowers to get me to where I needed to go, where I needed to be. And also my ability to connect with people. Like I could just talk to anybody, and my ability to see people. I wasn't using people, but I really created great friendships with people because I actually care about people, and they turn around and help me, and it was just this amazing organic thing I didn't even realize my superpowers are what really was helping me build my business, build the things that I didn't know and what I didn't have in my fingertips, the hard skills. I use my superpowers. And, so the second thing is learning how to hone in on those things and understanding what your weaknesses are.
Mm.
Part of that is, you've got to understand what your weaknesses are. If you don't understand what your weaknesses are, they will hold you back. They will hold you down if you can't own up to them. As you know, as a leader, and when you walk in as a leader and you have a team and you're trying to micromanage everything because you are insecure about stuff that you don't know how to do, and the team is going to hate you. They're so annoyed by you. But a true leader who can sit here and say, "Hey guys, this is something that who knows how to do this really well. This isn't my strength." And the other person's like, "Oh, I know how to do this." Well, not only have you done two things, you made yourself vulnerable, and people actually love that and appreciate that. Vulnerability is a beautiful thing. And secondly, you just gave someone an opportunity to stand up and shine where they need to shine.
Mm.
And so it's and this is goes across the board with personal and in business and in every aspect. So when you understand your weaknesses, and the other thing is like, I had a girl who was on American Idol. She came to me when she was 11 years old. Her name is Harper Grace, and if you look up the world's worst national anthem singer, it is Harper Grace. It is. I mean, it was just a nightmare. I mean, she didn't know the feedback, she didn't know the echo. Everybody was playing kazoo. She couldn't find her pitch, and she sounded drunk at 11 years old singing the national anthem. And it's a 90-second song, and it took her 3 minutes to sing, right? So when she came to me, she literally was, I mean, we're talking about heartbroken, didn't want to sing anymore, wanted to quit, wanted to give up, and this girl was super talented. And so through the 4 years that I was working and developing her, I was like, Harper, you have to own this story. This is your weak. This is going to be your weak spot in your life. This is going to be the thing that's going to always hold you back if you don't take ownership of this. And she went on to American Idol. And of course, the very first session, I was like, we have to set clear intentions on what you want. Right. And so I made her go home that day, create a vision board. I'm all about intentions and the visions. Right. And so she created this board. She carries it on to American Idol auditions. And they're like, what's on your board? She's like, to be on American Idol and hopefully win. And they're like, okay. And the very second thing that they do is show the world's worst national anthem.
Oh,
And I mean,
wow.
and then, so it's setting her up for failure. Right. But she handled it with such grace because we had already worked to own that weakness in her life, to own that situation, to own her story. And she didn't go on to make top 24, but she made it to, American Idol week. But that was the #1 watched YouTube video that year.
Wow.
And final night with the top 3, they had her come back and perform with the top three because she was able to own it. She was able to just, I mean, she was so funny about it. And so for her, that was a major weakness in her life. Her story was a major weakness. So we all have weaknesses in different areas, whether it's a personality weakness, whether that is, it could be a bad weakness, that addictions, things that can destroy you. But, most people's, your weakness, whether it's running late or negative energy, negative personality. So anyway, so understanding what that weakness is so that you can work around it. And the third thing is how you polish your gifts to shine. It's the branding of how to make those things shine. Your best assets. How do you make that shine? How do you make all that work together and tell the story to make people fall in love with you?
Yeah. I think it's interesting you're talking there about vulnerability. And one of the things that I know from coaching leaders is that, some people come into a leadership role believing that they should not show vulnerability, that they have all the answers, they know everything. And that actually is a massive stumbling block for them to become a true leader, because, it's the kind of servant leadership is where it's going. And it's not about having all the answers, but it is about helping people find their own answers. And I think that if you show vulnerability, people will trust you. And
100%.
And if they trust you, then then you're halfway there. But if you refuse to show vulnerability, you'll avoid talking about stuff that you should be talking about, and you will have this veneer that people won't penetrate, they won't get to know you, and they won't get to trust you. So you'll never become the leader that you can. It's interesting you talk about the music industry, and I know also that you do a lot of work in the corporate world, and you're talking about, going to Nike and Amazon and companies like that. Do you see a big difference? Do you find that it's a big shift in terms of your messaging to the music into that corporate world? Because from the outside in, people would see it as being very different. And I'm just wondering, when you're actually doing the work, is it all that different?
It's absolutely the same. It's incredible. With the music side, of course, we're working on, the music, writing the music, developing the music, creating the music, creating the stage shows, creating all the the shiny lights around it. But in the corporate world, it is the same. We're building people, and it's a mindset. Number one, it's just a huge mindset. And I don't care who you are. It's really amazing when I'm working with people. I'm working in I just got back from Costa Rica doing a 5-day workshop there. It's amazing to me. It doesn't matter what age people are. People don't know their gifts. They don't know how to show up in the world. And when you can shine a light on that for people and help them understand that and take them through things to get their own answers, I mean, we're talking about major breakthroughs for people. People are just crying and snot running out their noses, like going, "Oh my God, I never knew this about myself." And it's just unbelievably amazing to help people tap into their talents and abilities and gifts. And then on top of that, be able to realize their purpose. You know what I mean? Like, what is their heart calling them to do? What is it that you really and you were saying a second ago about how a lot of people in the corporate world, they feel like they're not happy, they're not in a great place, but a lot of times it's because their mindset, they are, like for me in the music side, I've been helping people live their best life. It's just been in music, right? So now that because I was like, man, I want to help people on such different levels. Well, now that I've understood and changed my mindset and changed my perception, I moved over here and saw it this way. Now I'm making more money than I've ever made, and I'm more excited about it. I've got a friend he's head in Estee Lauder, and he's so stressed out. He's like, I don't know, I'm not really, this is just too much. And I said, listen, you are learning so much. You're being given an opportunity that nobody else has, because they're acquiring all these companies. And I said, you're getting to be creative. You're getting to be able to help people. You're going to be able to, things that you love to do, you're being able to do. And he was like, oh my God, I never thought about it that way. So, that was just a conversation we had last night. I was helping him through all that stuff, his mindset about it. And I guarantee you, he went to work today with a totally different mindset of like, oh my God, this is actually a dream job that I'm getting to have. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I'm getting to do all the things that I love to do and I want to do. Because so we get so caught up in the work, in the negative stuff, rather than focusing on the positive points of what we're doing. And when you get to be creative and have a servant's heart and help people, who is not who I mean, you can find the best in that in any job, in any situation. As long as you got great leadership that's making you, creating a happy space for you.
If I were to ask you, based on the experience you've had both, in the music industry and the corporate world, what do you see as being the number one thing that keeps people from kind of achieving their potential or fulfilling their potential?
Is action, taking daily action, taking steps and being very intentional with what they want. And I'm guilty of probably doing things that really didn't serve me because of my insecurities, because of my fears, but what has kept me on a path going forward is taking daily action, taking steps to making things happen, whether they were the perfect thing or not. But it's led me to this point where I feel like I'm living my life completely on fire, 100% walking in my purpose and my greatness and my full potential. And, I know that I'm not reached my full potential, but I'm living what the full potential I have right now in me, you know what I mean, as I grow. And
I think actually what you're saying is so true, because I know that, when I'm working, it is about getting into action, because we all can procrastinate. Oh, I need to kind of, build a plan. I need to build a project plan. I need to, do this before I start and all that. And listen, we're all guilty of it. But I would always say, listen, just start. Just get going and do something every single day. And that's why I think, I would always argue that I think in many cases the approach that corporations take when it comes to planning is flawed. And they don't break it down into meaningful action, because people tend to do it almost academically and then kind of find it difficult to translate that back to, well, what should I be doing today? And I think it is that prioritization, but just get into action, because, if you're in action, then, you're moving towards something. But if you're not doing anything and you're just thinking about it, or you're just, dreaming about it, that's all you're doing is dreaming. You're actually not doing something that I really think that is important. So I would fully agree with you. Before we wrap up, I want a couple of things I want to get to. But one of the things that I'm really interested in is that I read that you said that there are two simple things that you can implement right now to build your confidence. What are those two things?
I'm not sure what that's referring to exactly, but I'll tell you the thing is understanding what your superpowers are. And I do have for your audience, it's a free download. They can just download it if they want to go in there and to discover what their superpowers are.
That's fantastic.
And I think that you're welcome. And so if you are diving deep into the superpowers of who you are, oh my God, you know how to show up in any situation, even when you don't feel you don't feel confident. If you don't feel like, oh, this is the right thing, if you can show up in those superpowers, I mean, you think about it. I mean, we all love superpower. We love superhero movies, and it's because people have these superpowers about them, and it's because they know what they are. And you need to know what those things are. What is your greatest asset that you're going to walk into any situation and carry with you? And I will say the other thing is understanding your core values. What is it that you really, I got my master's practitioner's license in neurolinguistic program and life coaching in February. And, I wanted to take something outside of what I already knew and to see if something was going to expand me. And most of the stuff is already what I was teaching, but what broke me open was the core values. And it was so amazing to discover what my core values are and to understand with your 5 top core values, any relationship that you go into, any business that you go into, anything in your life, if it does not serve your 5 core values, you will not be happy. And it doesn't need to be 100% in there, but if it doesn't serve 80% of that, you will never be happy. And so when you know what those are, then it can help you make incredible decisions for everything that you do. And so I also have it's a download for, to discover. It's like 3-page little workbook. It's super easy to discover what those core values are, and it can help people. I mean, it just cracks you open. So really,
that's fantastic, because I also think that, when you look at the core values, whether that's on an individual or on an organizational perspective, the core values in an organization perspective determine the culture of that organization.
Yes.
Assuming they're living to it. And I always kind of go back to the great Peter Drucker, who said, culture will eat strategy any day. And that's so true, because if you don't have the right culture, which is based on values, then, you can have all the finest strategy, but you won't actually achieve it. So I think that is so true. Listen, I've taken up more of your time, Jonathan, than I said I would. But before we go, I'd love to hear from you what I ask everybody else. One is a book that, has had a significant impact upon you and you would recommend.
It's really incredible. For me, grew up in church. And, even though I'm not a religious person, I'm a very spiritual person. And the book, the Bible, has probably been one of my greatest teachers, because all the life lessons are in there. You know what I mean? Like just basic common sense things, and leadership, and passion and purpose. And, we think about what is passion, and people living a life that's passionate. You think about the passion of Christ, and passion, he gave his life for something he believed in. And it's like, how passionate are you about what you're doing? Are you eating it, breathing it, sleeping it? Is this all you got to do? If it's not, then you're probably not that passionate about it. It's something that's a hobby that you enjoy doing, right? So I have to just, really think about that. Probably the Bible has been one of my greatest teachers up to this point. Now, I've got a whole slew of incredible books over here that I'm looking at, but that's probably been, the one that stayed true for so long. It's probably foundation for everything,
That's great. That's super. And daily rituals, do you have any? And what do they do for you?
I don't know if you can see behind me. I have a huge wall that I created. It's called my intention wall, and I can move my Halo camera there. But it is my full intention wall there that I created, and I couldn't put just people put up paper magazine stuff. I can't do all that, but so we had to make it artistic. But I am a list maker, a to-do list person. Actions. I mean, I create my every day. Create those things. I have my quarterly rocks. I have each week before I start my week, I create, like on a Sunday, my weekly rocks, and those are 3 things that are substantial enough that it's going to take some time. And then I create my to-do lists, and I make sure that I do it both in my business as well as my personal life. And those are probably like some of the biggest, because I'm all about, if you can take action, then and my other thing is constantly being in a heart of gratitude. And I use that as a daily practice all day long. In any situation that happens, I make sure that I live a life of gratitude, because it completely changes and heightens your entire endorphins, and it changes your happiness. It's creating a life of happiness. So, yeah, those 2 things are really big for me, is intentions and gratitude.
Fantastic. Jonathan, where can people get in touch with you? Because I'm sure they'd like to reach out to you. So what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, you can, for starters, I'm sure you can put the link on there, but jonathangeorge.com, and that's JONATHAN, George.com, jonathangeorge.com. Also, you can go to unleasharockstar.com, and it will take you where you need to go. But all the social media, I'm everywhere on social, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those things. Yeah, you can find me. So, I'm easy to get a hold of, and I'm somebody who love people, so I respond. I tend to overwork, because I won't stop until I've answered everybody, making sure that I get back to people. And so, yeah, you can reach out to me at any of those things.
Well, Jonathan, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for taking the time, and apologies for going over the time we said we would, but it's been a really enjoyable to have the conversation. So thank you so much, and listen, look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate you. All right, bye-bye.